You know, it's funny. One of the most common questions that I get asked is if it's a bad idea to sleep with your ex. And I suppose in order to properly answer that question, we first must understand the state of mind that most of the people that I interact with are in. You see, they have usually one of two goals when they come to this YouTube channel or they come to one of my websites. They either want to win their ex back or they want to move on from their ex. Now, speaking of getting an ex back, if you're in that state of mind, I've got great news for you. One of the other questions that we get asked all the time is, do I have a chance of getting my ex back? In fact, we've been asked that particular question so many times that I've actually put together a special quiz on my website that's designed to teach you, well, what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, taking this quiz is really easy to do. All you have to do is simply look in the description link below this YouTube video and click on that link. It will take you directly to the quiz where you can answer all the questions that we ask of you, and then we'll give you an approximate idea of what your overall chances of getting your ex back. But after you're done with that, let's answer the question that this video is going to be focusing on. Is it a bad idea to sleep with your ex after a breakup? And I suppose one of the best ways to answer this question is by asking more questions. Specifically, what do statistics say about how many people actually do sleep with their exes after a breakup? Well, in 2015, the Associated Press did a poll where they asked people all kinds of different questions about their experience after breakups. Now, one of the questions was, hey, how many of you have gotten back together with an ex? And another one of the questions was, how many of you have slept together with an ex? So what's interesting is the amount of people who said that they got back together with an ex was 43%. It's one of the statistics you'll see me citing all throughout these YouTube videos. But perhaps more interesting was how many people said that they slept with their ex. According to the Associated Press's poll, 36% of people have at least slept with one ex in their lifetimes. Now, further research paints a more interesting picture. Believe it or not, most of these 36% of people are women. So what is going through their heads? Why would someone, a woman specifically, want to sleep with their ex? Well, the first reason should be pretty obvious. Reconciliation. Basically, they think that if they sleep with their ex will all of a sudden magically want to come back and make things the way they were before. But usually, life doesn't really work out that way. But I'm not going to get into the details of what happens when you sleep with an ex. In fact, I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video because I think I have an interesting take on it. But let's keep diving down onto some of the reasons why people, specifically women, want to sleep with their exes after a breakup. The second reason is they have this tendency to over-romanticize their relationship with their ex. They forget all of the bad parts and only remember the good parts. Now, you often hear me talking on these videos and throughout my website and products about this idea of the peak end rule. Basically, when human beings remember experiences, we don't actually collectively remember the experience as a whole. Our brains don't process it that way. Instead, we remember experiences based on two distinct points: the most exciting, important part of the experience and the end of the experience. So people who tend to over-romanticize their relationships with their exes tend to over-romanticize the best parts of the relationships. They tend to forget the worst parts of their relationships. Now, the third reason is also a pretty common one that I see: this idea of settling. Sometimes when people go through breakups, they go through breakups and are extremely excited. It's a chance to get out there and try dating for the first time in a long time, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. Except we also call this the grass is greener syndrome. They think that after they break up with you, they're gonna go back out there and things are gonna be beautiful for them. The reality is far less glamorous. In fact, sometimes the reality is so unsettling, we want to come back and settle with the person that we're used to. Now, this can go both ways for both partners. So some of the reasons for why people want to sleep together again after the breakup is not only to reconcile, but also it's because they feel they can't find anyone better. It's just easier to fall back into those old habits. And one of the final reasons we see women sleeping with their exes is for closure. It's sort of this idea of the breakup sex. Now, statistics and research has some conflicting ideas. Some people believe that going on the rebound, for example, can be one of the best ways to get over a previous partner. And then other research comes out dictating that, hey, sleeping with your ex is actually more harmful than good. Which brings us to the real question that I want to answer here is, what have I seen happen from my clients who have slept with their exes? Now, if you're an avid researcher, you'll definitely know where I stand on whether or not you should sleep with your ex. I'm a big proponent of not ever sleeping with your ex until you're in a committed relationship. Now, I didn't necessarily always start out that way. Sex is one of those things that if you can do it with another partner, it's the closest physical intimacy you can have with them. It's a way of bonding, of making you special. At least that's what women think. And this is what women, this internal narrative they're having as they're deciding to sleep with their ex. But what actually happens when they do sleep with their ex? One of the best benefits of having a huge audience is that we're able to get all kinds of feedback from all kinds of different situations. Specifically this one. It's pretty common. 36% of our clients sleep with their exes. We tell them not to, but they still do it. So what happens to those clients? Well, believe it or not, the more interesting thing is not what happens to our clients, but how their exes react. The most common situation that we see after you sleep with an ex is friends with benefits. They want to have sex with you again, but they don't want any of the strings attached. You see, men like sex. We just do. And what's interesting is clients who have slept with their exes keep reporting that their ex always calls them up for booty calls. They always want to have sex with them again, but they don't want a relationship. It's almost as if you're opening Pandora's box. Once your ex gets a hint that sex with you is possible without any of the strings attached, not only do they lose a little bit of respect for you, but they start realizing they can take advantage of this situation, and they won't stop until someone sort of puts them in their place. But what about the people who are watching this who have already made a mistake and slept with their ex? Their exes are already trying to actively create this friends with benefits scenario where they get all the fun, but they don't have any of the relationship constraints that typically go along with sex. How do you handle that particular situation? For a long time, we didn't know how to advise our clients on what they should be doing. But one day, one of our clients did something outside the norm. It was so clever, I started recommending it to more clients, and they started doing it and having the same type of success. So what was it? Well, they basically friends with benefited their ex. It is well documented that when you sleep with someone, it creates a huge amount of oxytocin, the cuddle hormone. Essentially, after sex, most people want to cuddle. Most men, when you sleep with them, are expecting you to ask them to cuddle. But this particular client did not do that. Instead, she, after the deed was done, so to speak, got up, walked out, said, "Hey, that was great," and just suddenly left. This is completely against the norm of what her ex was expecting. So a day or two goes by, and this particular ex hasn't heard from his ex who just slept with him. He gets a little bit worried, so he reaches out, but she doesn't respond. Maybe a day or two goes by and he reaches out again. Finally, she responds and says, "Oh, so sorry, I was so busy. I was out with this person, out with this person." It's almost reinforcing this idea of, hey, she's not obsessing about me the way I thought she would. All of a sudden, this guy who thinks he's God's gift to the world realizes that he's nothing more than just a random human being walking around on this rock that we call Earth. Now, what's interesting here is how most men get fed this belief that they're God's gift to the world, especially after you sleep with them. It gives them extreme confidence, and they almost expect you to start begging for them. They expect you to want a relationship. So when that doesn't happen, when you look independent, when you looked in charge of your life, almost like you used him as opposed to the other way around, it kind of messes with men and reshapes the way they're looking at the situation. So friends with benefiting your ex is almost essentially pressing the reset button, or rather nipping it in the bud before he has a chance to friends with benefit you. Hey, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Again, if you haven't already and you're interested in learning what kind of chance you have of getting your ex back, simply look in the description link below and take our Ex Recovery Chances quiz. Click that link, it'll take you directly to the quiz. Oh, again, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel, like and comment. We'd love to hear comments from you.